and good morning to everybody. It is Monday, April 13th, Easter Monday, a McMurray University holiday. So technically we don't have class today. But anyway, the news continues. So I thought I would do my usual sharing with you of what's happening in the news. First, let's just go through the numbers. Worldwide, there is 1.8 million people who have the coronavirus. And, when we last did this on Friday, it was 1.67 million. So it's gone up almost 200,000 people in over Easter weekend. In terms of cases in the United States, there's 561,000. Before Easter weekend, it was 490,000. So it's gone up 71,000 cases in the United States. Here in Texas, 13,484. Last Friday, it was 11,671. So it's gone up almost 2,000 cases in one weekend. In Abilene, there was 55 cases last Friday, and now there's 61 cases. So, in terms of deaths worldwide, today 114,000 people have died. It was 101,000 over the weekend on Friday, so it's gone up about 13,000 deaths in one weekend. That was in the world. In the United States, 22,000 deaths, and now last Friday it was 18,000, so 4,000 people died over the weekend from the coronavirus. In Texas, last Friday it was 226 people died, now it's 271. And still in Abilene, thank God, we've only had one death, and that occurred more than a week ago. Okay, so those are the numbers. So in other words, the number of people getting the disease continues to increase. Now there's all this talk about in the United States that we seem to be reaching the plateau, the top, and that's a really good thing. What it's talking about is the number of cases, new cases, people going to the hospital, that sort of thing, seems to be plateauing, and that's fantastic. But the death rate continues to climb, even as the number of cases plateaus. Actually, it should be the other way around. Cases who get the disease continues to climb, but it seems to be plateauing. But the death rate continues to go up. The sense is that we're going to be reaching the peak of that soon, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but soon. And then it's going to be a gradual slowing down. So then that's going to lead to the big question that the president has to wrestle with. So does every governor, every mayor, and that is, when do you start allowing people back? Under our system of federalism, it is states and localities who have the responsibility for shutting down and then opening up a community or a state. The federal government gives guidance, and so President Trump is weighing when he's going to give guidance to open up the country again. And the sense is that sometime he's going to say we can start going back to work slowly on May 1st. But again, that is going to be up to the states, and it's going to be up to the governors, because here in Texas, we are at home because the governor tells us to be at home. Okay? In Abilene, we're at home because the mayor tells us to be at home. Okay? That's it. Okay? That's how it works. The president really has very little to do with it except to give guidance. And that guidance should come from the CDC. But the president is under tremendous pressure from the business community, from his economists, from his re-election effort to get America working again. And so we'll see how this is going to go. It'll be an interesting clash. And the concern is, if you go back too soon and you break down those social distancing rules, then the disease is going to start spreading again. And so the plateau we're on. It's going to go down a little bit, then it's going to go start climbing back up again. That's not so good. So we'll see how that's going to go. We'll talk about it as this all happens. I do want to bring up the fact that interesting little development over the weekend. Smithfield pork, and I don't know if you eat pork. I like it to have sausage or pork sausage sometimes. Um, they closed down a plant. It's in South Dakota. Half of the cases of coronavirus in South Dakota were occurring at this one plant. So the plant chief executive officer and the governor of South Dakota got together and said, this is not good. We need to shut down this plant. They just totally shut it down. 5% of the pork comes from that one plant. 5% of the pork nationwide comes from that plant. If Smithfield cannot get extra production from other pork plants, we're going to start having a shortage of pork. The same thing is taking place with other kinds of food, with beef. There simply is a shortage, a growing shortage of meat, simply because plants now are concentrated. You have one large plant, like the Smithfield plant, that provides a huge amount of their product to the whole country. And when the coronavirus comes, it can have a negative effect on that plant, but then on the production of that product, whatever it is, for the whole country. And while that's going on, farmers all over the country are suffering from a lack of workers because of the coronavirus to harvest their crops, and farmers who specialized in providing crops, providing food for restaurants, bars, schools, corporations, they all are having to destroy their product because they have no way to get their product in the field out to people's homes, because that's not the way that they have set up their supply chain. They sell it to certain people who then distribute it to certain people who then distribute it to restaurants or bars. Well, if those are shut down, there's nobody to buy that farmer's product, and they have no choice but to destroy it. That is taking place while there are people in this country, because of the unemployment crisis, who are going hungry. So you might have seen over the weekend the huge lines in San Antonio for people to line up at the food bank in San Antonio. And that is taking place all over the country. So what we've got are the normal ways to do things. Farmers who specialize in taking care of restaurants. There's no restaurants to get their food. They're destroying their crop. You have at the same time people who are hungry, who can't afford to buy food, and where they're going to get food. And so people are trying to figure out how to get the food from those farmers who give it to restaurants. So instead they give it to food banks. But that's not how the distribution lines, the trucking companies, are set up to operate. So there's real challenges now as we confront this coronavirus. Okay? Now, excuse me. Okay, I'm back. I apologize. Lost my voice for a second. Hopefully it's not the virus. And what I want to say now, Dr. Anthony Fauci is head of the United States infectious disease responsibility. You see him on the White House briefings with the president. He yesterday said that if the United States had taken efforts to shut down the country earlier, we would have saved a lot of deaths. Important to know, we're talking about 20,000 deaths in the United States. And he is saying that if we had taken efforts earlier, he had urged that we begin shutting down the country the end of February. President didn't order it till 3 weeks later in the middle of March. So we've been under shutdown orders for a month now. Fauci said that if we had taken the steps in February, we would have saved lives. Okay, so here's my cat, by the way. Okay, there goes my cat, Pluto. He's leaving now. He made an appearance again. So anyway, this is what's going to take place. We're going to hear more about this in the future. It's basically an after-action report. What took place? What steps did we take? And were they the right steps at the right time? And what Dr. Fauci is saying is it was not the right step. We should have acted more aggressively, and we would have saved a lot more lives. President Trump retweeted a post that said, "Fire Fauci." President Trump demands loyalty from his employees, and because President Trump does that, he is in essence making the argument that Fauci was not loyal to him, and because he's not loyal to him, he has to be fired. Okay, one other thing I want to bring up, well, actually two things real quickly. One is that the countries that make oil around the world, they're called OPEC, oil producing and exporting countries. They have all agreed to cut production of oil by about 10 million barrels of oil, and they're going to start this in May. Now, what's interesting about this is in an average day, 100 million barrels of oil are produced. Okay? Well, 65 million barrels are currently what is being used. So you cut production by 10 million barrels, and what does that say? That means you still have an awful lot of, there's my cat again, you still have an awful lot of oil that's being produced that's not being sold. What we have is an oversupply, and the prices have fallen so low that oil producers are going bankrupt. This is a very, very bad situation. It's affecting West Texas in just horrendous ways. So what we need to do, everybody thought, is we need to cut production. Well, what they agreed to do was cut production by 10%, but already we're using 35% less oil. So it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. By the way, the state of Texas Department of Transportation is saying that the driving in Texas is reduced by 50%. Okay, we're driving 50% less than we used to. Unbelievable. Okay, finally, remember the stimulus package that the government has? $2.2 million in stimulus, $2.2 trillion in stimulus package. That was designed to help us as the economy cratered. Okay, the part for small business is running out of money by this week. In other words, so many small businesses have applied for loans from the government that it is running out this week. And that was just approved 2 weeks ago. That's how bad the economic situation is in the United States right now. This is unprecedented, just unprecedented. We have to get back to work, but we've got to control the spread too of this disease. How do you do both at the same time? And that's a dilemma that the president is confronting this week. Okay, that's it for now. More on Wednesday. I hope everybody's being safe and hope they had a good Easter.